Our topic is how to realize Queenside pawn majority. Let me allow the microphones for you. Natalie, I made the microphone enable for you. You can now say something.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sure, it works.
Great. Hi.
Okay, there is only one problem. I can't turn the microphone for Michael. Michael, maybe you can just uh, re-log in or just exit and then enter. But for some reason, it doesn't work. Okay, you can use chat. Okay, fine. Um, okay, before we start this webinar, first thing that I want you to know is the tournament that we are going to participate. The tournament starts on 16th of September, and I want you all to participate there. Sorry, Michael, your microphone doesn't work. I mean, I can't enable it for you. Okay, just wait a second. I'll tell you more about the tournament I'm going to conduct. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the form to register for the tournament. Uh-huh. So, no, it should be in English, but yeah. No, yeah, it is. So your task is to complete here your email address, your name, and then click next. So you have to also uh, write down your chess.com and Lichess nicknames. Let me just tell you about the tournament, what we're gonna do. So this is an online chess tournament with real money prize. There will be 9 rounds, one game per week, and of course, no registration fee. I'm going to accept not more than 30 players. And if your rating is under 1800, if your FIDE rating is under 1800, or for example, US CF rating, then you may participate. When we start, 15th of September is the last day for registration, and then we play 9 rounds every week, one game. So the tournament will finish at 17th of November. Um, so how it works? I make pairings, then publish them on my Facebook group, for example, also on chess.com. And during the week, your task is to negotiate with your opponent, schedule the game, and play it on Lichess or chess.com. The time control is 45 minutes per game plus the increment of 30 seconds per move. After you finish the game, you should send it to me so that I'll check it so with my anti-cheating program to be sure that it was you who played this game and not you with the help of the computer. I mean, with the chess engine. What about the prizes? There is actually only one money prize. The first prize is $100. For some, it's a small amount. For others, this is a normal price. You're speaking about tournaments that take place in Russia. I would say that 100 for tournaments among amateurs. is a really good price, and even I would like to participate. For example, when I became a Novosibirsk champion, I got only $50. Okay, so the second prize is a free training session with me, and as the third prize, I give you an access to 3 of my tactical courses. Also, one more thing that is important, um, I'm going to analyze 5 top games of every round. So, for example, in the first round, there are, let's say, uh, 15 pairs, and I choose 5 with the highest rating, and then I analyze these games. Or maybe, for example, I can choose not the highest rated players, but the game that we're really interested in. I analyze them, then publish on YouTube so that you can watch the analysis for free. And I will show not only the blunders, but some strategical mistakes that you, for some reason, made. Uh, so such mistakes that took you to the wrong direction. And this is what Chess Engine doesn't show actually. Also, I will provide you with some recommendation about what you did wrong, what you should do, and what to do to improve. Okay, that's all about the tournament. Let's don't forget to register using this link. Yeah, let me. Yeah, this is the link actually. This is a short link. Yes, Michael, you already registered. So for those who didn't, I can copy this link to the chat. Okay, so Vadim, thank you for joining. Because you use your mobile phone to watch the webinar, I can't enable the microphone to you. It doesn't work with mobile devices. Okay, let's close it. Like this. Let's start with our topic: how to realize the pawn majority on the queen side. Please look at this position and tell me, how would you play? Think about a winning plan for white. So actually, white has only 3 pawns and black has 4. But if you look on the queen side, here white has a pawn majority. Moreover, this pawn is a weakness too. We may take it, but I think rook e5 would lead to a draw. I'll show you. But first, I want to understand what your ideas for this position are. Okay, who wants to say something? Okay, so before we discuss this exact position, I want you to know that one of the main plans how to play with a pawn majority on the queen side is to create a distant passed pawn. Because here the king that is located on the king side is too far from the queen side, and if you can create a distant pass pawn, it's easy to promote. While he just can't join the king in time. So the task is to create a distant pass pawn. What would you do to be able to do this?
Maybe rook on a7.
Rook a7, threatening to take the pawn.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's make this move on the board. Rook a7, then no, just bishop d6 is enough. Then what? b4.
Mm, yeah.
Maybe. Then he goes with his king closer, for example, king g8, or maybe just rook b8 can be played. Because if you push c4, then b4 is hanging.
Mm,
Okay, let's go back. So bishop c5, that forces the exchange. Uh-huh. That makes sense too, but only in case if you want to get a draw from this position, because this rook and game is likely to be a drawish. And if you want to win, um, no, I would recommend to trade rooks, but no, to keep the bishops on the board, because with rooks on the board, I mean, with rooks only left on the board, it's black has more chances to get a draw. Um, okay, so yeah, you'd better play with all the material, so no trades for now. Okay, but you should get your king to d3 first to centralize the king. And then maybe to capture the pawn on e5 with your king, or maybe with your, or maybe you just will attack this pawn and uh, find a counterplay on the queen side and take the pawn on e5 later when you really need it. Okay, let's go back and let me show rook e5 move. If you play this move, the bishop is under attack, then bishop d6, rook goes, for example, h5,
mhm.
g6, bishop d4 check, king g8, rook goes to h4. Oh, the rook has to stay here to be able to protect these two pawns, because if you lose the pawn on h2, then black can start advancing his pawns, and this is how he gets the counterplay. Okay, then rook e8, king to f3, and c5. Then he goes to g7, and I would say that this is a drawish position, because I don't know what you can do to succeed. So rook e5 is a tempo loss. This pawn is not so important. At the same time, if you take this pawn, it gives a counterplay for black. So king to d3, king g8, king e4, taking the pawn. And then in this position, oh, actually, we are analyzing the game between Alexander Alekin and Richard Takeman. And here, black made a mistake. He could still make a draw by playing rook f1 to activate the rook. If then, for example, king d5, what looks logical, then rook e1, attacking our bishop. Bishop moves to c5, or actually it doesn't matter where he goes. Looks like it has to move to c5 because of this move, bishop f2, then the rook e2, attacking everything. So bishop c5, then take e4, and because of this e3 pawn, no, actually, wait, I made a mistake maybe. Yeah, in this position, not e4, but just rook e2. And in case of b4, then this move. Here, white can still play for a victory if he takes on c7, but if black plays properly, then it should be a draw. Okay, let's go back. Black played rook b8. Okay, Vadim, now I enabled microphone to you too. And I also can do the same thing for Elliot. Now everyone could speak except Michael. It doesn't work for some reason. Oh, yes, I can hear
Hello?
you. Yes, Vadim.
Okay.
Okay, let's
Thank you.
continue. So rook b8 was played. b4 to start in advancing the pawns on the queen side. King f7. b5. King comes to e6. then c4 with the other pawn. So the idea is quite clear: to play c5, then b6, and try to get the pawn to b7, and then somehow attack the rook. Maybe with bishop a7, or maybe with some other moves. King d7. How would you play in this position? So should we play c5 here, or there is a better move? Any suggestions? Mm. King to d5. King d5 makes sense, of course, but then, for example, maybe rook d8 can be played.
And why not to capture the pawn?
Capture the pawn on e5. I told you it gives a counterplay with bishop d6, bishop h2.
Mm-hmm.
So I think king d5. Okay, king d5 is better here. That makes sense. It keeps the idea to play c5. And anyway, okay, looks like no more suggestions. Rook. Okay, let's wait for Yashu. Rook a7. That's right. Yes, this is the best move because now we are threatening to play b6. So, for example, b6, attacking the pawn, then b7, and oh, actually, no. No, you'll see it. For example, here black played bishop d6 to protect the pawn on c7. How would you play in case of bishop d8? How to continue this attack? No, not the attack, but just how to continue to playing in this position.
C5.
c5, this is a possible move. I would agree with you if not the pawn on b5. So c5, he captures on b5. Yes, Michael is right. Here you should take on e5 because there is no counterplay. The bishop went to d8. Then, for example, h6, king d5, g5, and b6. King c8. How would you play in this position?
King on C6.
King c6. Threatening to take on c7. Okay, black takes, and then he's almost trapped, but white should understand what to do then. Bishop b6 doesn't work, Elliot. If bishop b6, just rook b6 with a check. Rook h8, you mean rook h7 and then rook h8? That makes more sense, but if you play rook to h7, you give his rook the option to get to a8.
Oh, maybe rook A8?
Rook a8 to blunder the rook for free?
Oh, no, I confused.
Okay, so here just anything. For example, no, oh, okay, well, let me just give you one more hint. The rook is almost trapped. It has no squares to move. And black can't do anything with his king to allow the rook more space. How to play
To
against black?
bishop to f2.
bishop to f2, as well as bishop d4. Both are playable. Okay, then it's winning. Okay, let's go back. Bishop d8 here. Rook a7, bishop d8 was losing the game immediately. Bishop d6 was played. How would you continue now?
C5.
Mm-hmm. Okay, a good suggestion, but what's wrong with c5 move? This is not the best move. It's a possible move, but then white can face with some problems with realizing extra material. So how black can play now?
Rook will take the pawn on b5.
Yeah, rook captures on b5, c takes on d6, king takes on d6. And then we have only one pawn left. Of course, it's winning, but you should play really accurate in this position, because if you then trade lose this pawn on h2, but get all these four pawns, even in that case, you may still draw the game. I mean, sometimes you can't win with a rook and bishop against the rook. So, for example, knight and rook against a rook is a draw with no doubts. And when you have a rook and a bishop, you can win, but I'm not sure that you can do it in 50 moves. And of course, 50 moves without trades or pawn moves, and then your opponent can claim a draw. Okay, so that's why c5 was too risky. There was a better way to play in this exact position. What other suggestions do you have?
King on d5.
Yeah, king d5 is a better move. Yes. Yashur suggested this move first. Yeah, king d5 is much better, and it also gives your king more space, and it prevents black pieces from maneuvering. E4, this is how black played. Probably black wanted to capture on h2, but I think it's too late. Then b6, the pawn is pinned. And this position, he played rook to f8. However, please tell me what you can do after bishop captures on h2, how to deal with this move.
Play c5.
c5, then for example he plays king c8, and what then?
And then king to c6.
Right. So yes, if he doesn't play king to c8, then we play c6, b7, and rook a8. And he has no pieces to protect his rook on b8. He has to trade on e8, and this is how you promote a pawn to a queen. So king c8, because then b7 doesn't work, as well as c6 doesn't work because he captures on b6. But king c6 works. Now we're threatening to take on c7 with our pawn. And in this case, well, you see, he captures with bishop, then we take with rook, then we win because we have a pawn on c5 and we can take all these. That's why, that's why here the only move is c takes on b6, because if not, then actually b7 works as well. b7 check, then rook e8. So he has to take anyway. how would you continue in this position? Should we take or not?
Sure. Yeah.
Take? Oh, if we take, it's still a winning position, but king d8. So what's the idea? Now black got rid of his c pawn, what means that his rook on b8 is protected by the bishop. And for example, if you trade rooks in this position by playing b7, rook e8, he just captures on b8 with his bishop, and then he may sacrifice his bishop for that pawn, and this is a draw.
What about the let's see. Rook takes a pawn.
Rook takes pawn on g7. This is a good move. However, the best one is bishop g5. What's the idea? For example, b takes on c5. I don't really see if there is another move. Okay, b takes on c5. And then we play rook f7 with the idea to deliver a checkmate by playing rook f8. So bishop d6 can't be played. For example, bishop d6, then we play rook g7. Yeah, rook g7. Okay, just tell me what's wrong with this move, because now we are threatening to take here as well as to deliver a checkmate on d8. What now, black?
Bishop. Actually, no. Let's see.
So after this move, black wins the game.
Oh, I know. It's rook check. Rook
b6.
to b6 check.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Rook b6, king has to take, but white loses his rook, and now black plays with 4 extra pawns. It's absolutely winning, of course. So be very careful here. For example, rook g7 is much better, threatening to play rook g8 and then checkmate. Bishop f8, then just rook g8, and there is no defense. The only thing he can do is to sacrifice his rook. The king has no squares to escape. Okay, let's go back. So here, bishop h2 was a wrong move. Then we could play c5. Rook f8 was played. c5. Rook f5 check. How to play in this position?
King takes pawn.
Okay, and what do you expect black to play after king takes on e4?
Rook on d5 check.
Rook e5 check, you mean?
Yeah.
Rook f5 check. Maybe rook f5 check. Okay, yes, rook e5 check. King goes. Where does the king go? To d4? No, it can't. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe rook e5 is not the best move. Oh, yeah, actually, rook e5, king d4. But then just rook c5. And after b7, he goes behind. So to take the e4 pawn was a mistake. So I understand your desire to take the pawn, but you are just 2 pawns ahead. You just 2 squares left for your pawn to be promoted. So focus on it, not on the useless pawn on e4. Yeah, sure. King c5. What do you mean? King c4. Yeah, probably it's king c4. Oh, actually. I can add the notation here. Yes. Okay, should be better. Oh, but the problem is that I can't get rid of this evaluation. Okay. Okay, yeah, king c4. And what then? Here actually black resigned. Why? Because he can't now stop the b pawn. For example, I don't know, bishop h2. Then how do we continue?
B7.
b7. Then, of course, here c6. Oh, if c6 doesn't work in this position, right?
Mm-hmm.
If c6 is played, then what would you do?
B8.
b8 with a check, right? Okay, so looks like rook f8 is the only option to stop the pawn. But then rook e8. And if c6, just take here. And it's over. Okay, so b7 is a winning move. What if instead of bishop h2? Actually, right. Okay, so bishop h2, then b7, because if we play c6 in this position, what is a mistake? King takes. Because if then we play b7, he can play rook b5, trying to stop the pawn. And no, however, now rook a6 is still a winning move, but then, for example, rook b6. Rook b6, then I think b8 equals queen is the best move. And if he takes, then queen b5. This is a winning position, of course. If instead he takes on b7, then we play this position with extra rook. It's still a winning position. But of course, we first have to take these pawns on that side. Okay, fine. So here after king c4, he resigned because of no defense against b7. So what did we do? Let's go back. So first, we get our king to the center. And if he doesn't do anything, then we just come closer, then take everything, then promote our b pawn. That's why he had to get his king to d7. So that we played rook a7 and used the weakness of the c7 pawn that was pinned and successfully played b6. So we didn't even have to trade the pawns and create a distant path pawns. We just used the pin of c7 pawn, and then because he can't get rid of our b pawn, we just advance it. We could advance it to b7 and win the game. Okay, fine. So then I'm gonna give you another game to analyze. Okay, just wait a second. Okay, here we go. I hope you see the screen now. It's just initial position. And we're going to analyze the game between Vasily Smyslov and Laszlo Sabo from Hungary. No, let's start with the game. Of course, we don't pay much attention to the opening because that was kind of no, that was an old game, and many things changed. Okay, c4, knight f6, knight f3, d4, g3, and the white decided to play this fianchetto against this King's Indian. But then after d5 was played, this is not King's Indian anymore. This is Grunfeld defense. So Grunfeld is usually played against, no, is always played against d4, c4, so against Queen's Gambit. And Black just develops his pieces as usual, as it's King's Indian, knight f6, bishop g7, and then finally he plays d5. And as for this exact position, I don't really like it for Black because here e4 can be played, and here e4 gives some advantage for White in this position, but d5 should be played when the knight is already on c3, because then knight takes knight, pawn takes on c3, and then Black plays c5 to attack this strong pawn center. Here, instead of e4, white castled, c5 and e4 now. Knight goes to f6. Now both pawns are under attack, but we can play e5. Knight has to go back. And in this position, d takes on c5. Nowadays, no, people still play this opening, and nowadays knight a6 is considered to be stronger. This is what Black could play, but instead knight b4 was played. So, of course, Laszlo Sabo was familiar with this position, but of course he didn't knew all the novelties. Knight b4, then knight c3. So here we are not afraid of this trade, and we'll take with rook. Knight c2 is a useless move, just rook b1. So knight c8 to c6. This is what Black played. Queen e2 and queen d3. White is okay with queen straight because he has a clear plan how to convert his pawn majority on the queen side. So here you see this is an extra pawn on c5, but the pawn on e5 is a weakness. So White has no. In case if Black takes on e5, White would get 3 against 2 on the queen side. And here he plays rook d1. Why? Because he wants just to get the control over the d file. Queen e2, knight e2, knight e5, knight e5, bishop e5, bishop h6. Now this rook has to move, and it doesn't have the d8 square. It moves only to e8, where it has nothing to do because the file is closed. By the way, can you please tell me how... Huh?
I was just going to ask what will white do for black takes the pawn?
Bishop b2? Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the question for you. How would you play?
Rook to b1.
No, just rook a b1, and now everything is hanging. So these two and the rook on f8, and if bishop comes back to g7, white just trades on g7 and finally take the knight on b4. So bishop b2 was the move that could lose the game immediately. That's why rook e8. Another possible move, of course, was bishop to g7, but we can just trade and it's over. The pawn here is not hanging. White is fine with it. Okay, rook e8, then rook d2 to protect the pawn. Knight c6, knight f4. So what's the plan? Here, the bishop on g2 adds more pressure on this diagonal. So at some moment we can take, but the original plan is to advance the pawns on the queen side. So by playing a3, b4, and so on. Also, this knight from f4 can get to d5. Bishop f5, rook e1, just to be sure that this rook is not hanging on e1, to play b4. Oh, not now, because if b4 now, then knight takes on b4. Ah, wait, no. Oh, actually, if b4 now, then bishop takes on f4, bishop takes bishop, and knight captures on b4. However, after that, rook bishop b7 can be played. But then rook d8. Okay, in this position, bishop g7 was played instead of taking the knight. Then white trades his bishops a3 to play b4, g5, and of course knight goes to d5 to be able to play knight c7 move, or at least to threaten it. Rook ed8, rook ed1, bishop g4 f3, bishop e6, b4, h6. And how would you play in this position? Oh, I understand. It's difficult to come up with a good move, but usually the rule is that our common rule is that when you don't know what to do, try to improve the position of your worst piece. Okay, Michael suggests f4. Michael, if f4, then bishop comes back to g4, the rook is hanging. The rook has to move, but then this is a pin.
About bishop to f1?
What's the idea of bishop f1 move?
To play something like bishop b5, and well, mostly so my bishop can become alive again.
Now, I see you want to activate the bishop, but there is no concrete idea with this bishop. So
there's also king to f2.
King f2. Okay, yes. So king is the worst piece, and king f2 is a helpful move for future endgame. I mean, in case if we trade more material and then have to centralize both kings, then white is closer. Another option in this position, and maybe a better move, was knight c7. For example, then what? He takes, we take, rook goes to probably c8, we take here, and then maybe f4, maybe rook d7. No, I think f4 makes more sense. Actually,
Have the bishop and the pawn will have double isolated pawns.
Rook d8, then check, f takes, trade, then maybe f4 to attack on b7. Yeah, that makes sense. Here white is much better. So knight c7 was another possibility. However, king f2, a slow move, but a helpful move to centralize the king. Rook d7. How to play now? Of course, he wants to double. So rook a d8, and if so, then we have to play maybe f4, but our knight is pinned. This is a kind of a problem, because after f4, then bishop g4, and then e6. Okay, I can just show you, for example, if we play this move, then rook d8, the knight is pinned. We have to play f4 to protect it. Then bishop g4. And if we move the rook, we'll lose it. Anyway, even if we don't move, then this move can be the next move, and we'll lose the knight anyway on d5. So knight c3 was played here, just to trade the rooks, but to keep the control over the d file. Rook d8, rook takes rook, knight takes on d8, and how would you proceed in this position?
Bishop f1.
What? Bishop f1, you mean?
Yeah. Or there's also king e3.
King f3 is a good move.
Yeah.
And of course helpful, especially if you don't know how to play, but that was a better move, I think.
There's also, like, I'm not sure about this move, but I'm thinking of knight to e4.
This is what Michael also suggested. What's the idea of this move? I just don't understand it.
To centralize the knight.
And where this knight goes, what if I just play, I don't know,
The king,
just
it
ace?
keeps the king out of f6.
Maybe, but what then? I can also play bishop d5 then. And f5 later if I want. Bishop can come to c6. Oh, actually, wait. Bishop d7, and I just stop any pawn activity here. Then I can play bishop to c6, bishop knight to e6, and with high chances to get a draw. So knight e4 is not what we want. We should keep his pieces passive and try to succeed with our idea to realize the pawn majority on the queen side by creating a distant passed pawn. Okay, here Michael suggested b5. Let's cover this line. Maybe this is a good move. Bishop c8 then. And then maybe king e3. Because c6 cannot be played right now. Okay, I think it improves our position because it forces him to play bishop c8. But the best move is f4.
Yeah, I was thought about that.
Because here the knight has to stay on d8. So here g takes, and then if, for example, he plays knight c6, what would you do?
Trade it.
And then?
King to e3.
It's too slow. There is a much better move. Much better move that can finish the game faster.
A4.
A4, A4, A6.
A4.
Yeah, I see. I just
Like
reply with A6, and what then?
And then B5.
B5 I take with my C pawn. You take with the A pawn. I take with the A pawn. Then knight comes to B5, and you have a passed pawn, but after bishop D5, or maybe not bishop D5, just king F6 first. I think no, not.
What about
bishop D7? Yeah, I think I can stop the C pawn.
Knight to E2?
I don't understand this move at all. Okay, king F6. You play knight D4, bishop D5, right?
Yes.
No, okay, what then?
And now his king is out. I keep his king out. I can even play. Now I think idea with A4. I'm
A4
yeah,
is
A4 and yeah, now this works.
no, sorry, the other pawn. It doesn't. Actually, by the way, here I can take just. And then what? I can play e5 with a temper, and then my king
now
is able to catch the pawn.
push the pawn. Maybe push the pawn now.
Push the pawn, then I would push the pawn, and if you push again, I have bishop b7 move. Oh, I can show you bishop b7. Then what? Let's now play with the knight. But if you play with the knight, then b3, and you have to go back to save to catch the pawn because the king is out of the square of the pawn here. So you have to use your knight to stop it. Okay. So let's go back. So here Natalia was correct about trading on c6, but then b5 should be played immediately. And how to play? C takes b5. C takes b5. Then knight takes on b5, and the a7 is hanging as well. And we also threatening to play c6. So, for example, if here we take the pawn on a7, it's winning with no doubts because we can play just c6, c7, and so on. That's why a6 should be played. But it doesn't change anything. Knight a7 and c6, c7, and c8. For example, he moves the king, but then he is not in time because we cover this square with our pawn. And king d7 just blocks the bishop. So here black has to sacrifice his bishop for a pawn, and then it's winning for white. Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe bishop d5 should be played, but it doesn't change anything. I just take and promote. Okay, knight c6 wasn't played in the game. Instead, bishop b3. And just king e3. King f6. And b5. E5 was played in the game, but how would you react to king e6? So think about what you can do to win the material or promote the pawn.
King on d4.
King d4, then king goes to d7, and he controls the c6 square with his king. It's not easy to create a passed pawn after king d7 move.
A4.
King d7. A5 then. No, it makes more sense, but
Wait, if he goes to king. Oh no. I thought I could win a pawn.
Bishop b7, knight b7, c6 check.
But he just gets his king to take the pawn.
Okay, Michael suggested bishop h3, but
Yeah.
what if just f5 then?
What about play c6?
Yeah, c6 should be played. And now if he takes, we take. And if he plays king to d6, what should we do?
Knight check. Knight to b5 check.
Right, and then c7, and now we have two queen squares, c8 as well as d8. He can't stop. Oh, he can with king d7 move. Can he? Yes, he can with this move, but then we just win a piece. If he doesn't take but play king d6 immediately, then what to do?
Take on b7.
Well, if you take on b7, then king c7 stops it.
What about knight to g4 check? Or e4 check, I
e4
mean.
check, king c7.
And then knight to c5.
c5 attacking the bishop. I see. Bishop c4 should be played.
And now
You take on b7 with what?
with the pawn.
You take on b7 with the pawn. I take the pawn on b5 with my bishop.
Oh no, I think I would take with my. Oh no, yeah, the pawn.
So I can show you. So first you suggested knight e4, king c7, knight c5, bishop c4. And then if you take with the pawn, I take here. And I cover this square. So you can't give a check. Maybe you can play a4. That makes more sense, but then these move. And in case of king d4, I have bishop e2. So I still cover this square. But I think this is a winning position anyway for white.
Because
However,
his king, I think you could eat up the queenside pawns in there. Just move your king to the queenside pawns.
In what position?
And after taking with the here. I think you just move and take the queenside pawns.
How can you
with your
take on
king?
a7? Oh, king where it can't go to the light square to the light diagonal. There is a bishop here. How? You mean to the king side? But no. How
to
get
the king side
through
the H file. So maybe don't go to. Maybe don't go to e4.
But go to f3. Okay, let's say he doesn't do anything. Let me play. I don't know. Oh, I actually can take on b7 right now. So that was a bad move. So maybe f2.
Yeah.
If f2, then let's say f6 might work. King goes here, then I play maybe e5. Well, this is a winning position. You can just stick to any plan. Then king h4, but after king h4, bishop e2.
Well, instead of king h4, you can go bishop f4. I mean f3.
f3, right? Bishop f3, but knight f7. Knight f7, knight d6. Or maybe just keep it here. But here you win with knight d7 move. Okay, fine. Looks like I have to keep my knight. Okay, yeah, this is a winning position, but it's a very long plan. Instead, there is a much better move that finishes the game in a few moves. Okay, any suggestion? This is a kind of a tactical strike. With this move, white starts a winning combination and promotes his pawn. Or gets... Oh, actually, yes, promotes the pawn.
Maybe a4?
a4 is too slow, I think. Then after a4, b takes on c6. And he wins the pawn.
What about b? What about b? Move the b pawn to b6.
And what if he just takes on b6 with the a pawn?
Oh yeah.
Oh, actually, you're right. B6, A takes B6, knight B5. And after king moves, promote.
But I think he can just take the c pawn
When? Here? With which piece?
with the knight.
Trade. Who takes?
And take with
King?
the king.
King? B takes A7. Nobody can stop the pawn.
Oh.
So B6, this is a winning move. And the best move is A takes on B6, knight B5. King goes here, then king D7, and play this position without a piece. But it's clear that white is winning with extra piece. Okay, let's go back. So king E6 didn't work. Black played D5. How would you play now? If you take on E5, you allow his king to get to the center, and then your king becomes passive. Okay, king E4, this is what Michael suggested. King E4 move. King E4. He takes, then what? Take on F4. But I think he is okay. Just knight E6 and he takes on C5. If something like this, maybe yes, he takes, then king takes. Oh, definitely white is better here. He's threatening with C6. King E7. But if C6 now, or B takes C6, B takes C6, but knight E6, and this is how he stops the pawn. So it looks like king E4 is not the best move.
What about knight e4?
Knight E4. Knight
Yeah.
E4 is better. King E6, and how to play after that?
Mm.
How to continue?
Knight on d6.
Knight on D6.
Yeah.
He takes, king takes, bishop D5. So I'm not sure that this is the best option. I think there is actually a really good move that helps white to win almost immediately. Knight d6, white is still better, but there is a better move that you can find.
Bishop h3 check.
Bishop h3 check. What about bishop h3? Then king d5. So it looks like now he centralized the king. That's not in our favor. Okay, guys, here you can win a piece or promote a pawn. Okay, Elliot suggests to give a fork. Right, c6 and the fork, right. No, not f5, but c6. c6 with two threats. First one is to play c7 and then take or promote on the c8 square. The second is to play knight c5 and just win a bishop for free. How to play? No. E takes f4, king f4, of course. And then if b takes on c6, this is what happened in the game, knight c5, and then white won. But I want you to find what to do after king e7. What if he doesn't take on c6 but play king to e7 move?
C7.
c7 is a huge mistake. Why?
Because of king on D7.
On king d7, we just take the knight on d8 and have extra piece.
What about b6?
Okay, just wait. c7, knight e6, fork, and he wins the pawn.
b6.
b6 right now?
Yes.
Knight c6, this pawn is protected.
And
Okay,
then move your knight. I
Move your
thought
knight?
then move your knight.
You mean how? Knight c5? Oh, wait, maybe.
Yes.
Okay, what if I just take on b6? And c7 doesn't work because of knight e6 check. So Michael suggested
Well,
king e5. Just wait, let's just cover this move. I
Sure.
don't really understand king e5 move, because what if he just takes? Knight c5, f6. King goes to d4, let's say. Knight e6. Okay, yeah, knight e6, then knight takes, king takes, then bishop takes, and I think it's a draw. Here white can't create a distant pass pawn, but black already has it. So it should be a draw.
What about knight to c5?
Knight to c5 in this position. Alright, knight c5 makes sense. Then okay, bishop is hanging. Okay, bishop a2. And then?
Take with the... And then you can go push the pawn. Push the c
You
pawn.
can actually do,
c7.
you can take or you can push. Up to you. Actually, to push is better because then you promote. Oh, actually, if in case of knight e6, then you have to take, bishop takes, and then you play bishop b7, then you win a bishop.
Why do you... Oh, you have to take, yeah.
Okay, after king e7, knight c5 wins. Let's go back. So here in the game it was b takes on c6, and then knight c5 fork. King went to d6, knight takes b3, he takes h4. And knight c6, this is what was played. In case of knight e6, how would you play?
To e4.
e4? Why e4? I would play f5 to be closer to these pawns. Okay, so knight c6, how to play now?
King to f5.
That makes sense. No, white decided to play in a more simple way. He just took on c6, and then how to play? King f5?
Yes.
No, king f5 is a mistake. King g4 should be played. Why? Because this pawn is more important. We just need to take it, and then we promote the h pawn. Nobody cares about the rest. Because if you play king f5 now, then he can play king d5. Of course, it's still a winning position, but then you have to play properly. King c4. Yeah, so knight a5 works in this position. Okay, so king f5 works as well, but king g4 is better. Okay, king g4, and then he plays b4. We take king b5. How to play them?
Knight to d4 check.
Knight d4. In case if he takes, we just
Fork.
play knight c6 and fork him. And here he resigned, actually. But let's continue. What if, for example, king c4? How would you play them? Okay,
Knight
here,
e6.
knight c6, right, knight c6. He goes a6, and then just king h5 to capture the pawn. He goes
What if
to...
he,
This
what
move,
if he plays f5?
when? After king
After,
h5
yes.
now?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just take here. f4, fine, king g5. And f3 cannot be played. If f3, then
Oh, there's a fork.
yes, and after this move, we play h5, and we promote first and control the a1 square. You see?
Yep.
So king b5, and how to play?
Take the pawn.
On h6?
Yep.
What can you say about knight b8 move? With the idea to take on a6 in case if he captures on b4.
Then he plays f5. I'm f6.
f5. He plays f5.
Oh, f5, sorry.
f5, and then what to do? If we push, if we move the king, then f4. There are no forks. So knight d7 has to be played to get the knight back. But he captures on b4, king captures on h6. Then what? A5. Knight to b6, but then f4. Knight to d5 doesn't work. King g5 maybe works. f3, h5, f2. But then knight d5, king b3, and knight e3. Then we promote first. So we can still promote faster than him.
What if he goes? Sorry.
Well, here.
Yes. What if he goes when you check instead of b3, he goes to c4. 4.
Then knight e3 is a check.
And then to d4 or d3.
King f4 just. And then again, the h pawn is promoted faster than the a pawn.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. So knight b8 was not the best move. Knight b8 could lead to so many complications, so it's much better just to take on h6. King takes on c6. Then h5. King d5. Just king g5. And after king e5, h6. f6 doesn't work. We promote faster with a check. This is how we win. Okay, let's go back and try to sum it up. I want to go to this position. This is the key idea. So white has a pawn majority on the king side, on the queen side, sorry, and actually he advanced these pawns really far, and he just needs to play b5 and c6, and then he is just one square to play c7 and attack the knight. f4 was a very important move. White understood that he opens the bishop, the knight has to stay on d8 to protect this pawn, because if knight goes to c6, then black loses immediately because of trade on c6 and b5. When next time you have a pawn majority on the queen side, you can pass the game into the end game and try to realize the same plan. And if you don't blunder, I believe you can win. Do you have any questions? Okay.
No, I
If there
don't
are
think.
no, okay, Vadim. If there are no questions, I just want to remind you about the tournament. So
Do we
I'm
have to
going.
register early?
You didn't?
Or do we have to pre-register, or do we have to
Yes.
register on the day of the tournament?
I recommend you to pre-register because I accept only 30 players.
Oh, how many people and how many? When does the game start? What time?
It's up to you. Okay, let me just tell more about this tournament. So we are going to play 9 rounds, and we play one game per week with the time control 45 minutes per game plus the increment of 30 seconds per move. As for the playing procedure, every week, for example, on Monday, I make pairings and publish them on our Facebook group, our Facebook page, or our chess.com group. And during the week, your task is to negotiate with your opponent, schedule the game, and play it on lichess or chess.com with this time control 45 plus 30. Then, after you finish, you send me the link to this game. I have to check it for cheating with some anti-cheating programs. And if everything is fine, then I will enter these results to the table. And next week, next Monday, you'll get another opponent to be paired with you. And then you play another game. So this is how it works. And the time of the game depends on what you negotiate with your opponent. For example, if you play with someone living in North America, I think it's easier for you to schedule. If there is a guy living in Australia, I think you can play on Saturday or Sunday.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so everyone whose rating is below 1800 is welcome.
What date does it start?
We start. Okay, so next Sunday, the 15th of September, is the last day of registration, and we start on 16th. So in a week.
Okay. And so the so how many people are there right now that are registered?
Right now there are registered only 7, but there should be at least 12 my students. And I also will ask some of my subscribers to participate. So I estimate 30 people to come and play. And
Okay.
by the way, I didn't.
And
Okay, what's the question?
so what rating do we use?
Uh, so I will use your chess.com rating as the primary rating, but not just to rank you on the table. So the guy with the highest rating on chess.com will be the first player. But when I said that when I said that you should be under 1800, it means FIDE rating or United States Chess Federation rating.
Because I don't have a FIDE rating yet. I have a CFC rating.
And what's the number?
My CFC rating is 17.
Oh, it's okay.
20. It's okay. It's 17. It's 1728.
Okay, fine. You are welcome to participate.
Okay.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, if there is no question, then we'll finish. This is over. Let's. I also welcome you to my next webinar that I conduct next Sunday. Okay. Thank
I
you,
was
everyone.
late today because my computer started up, so I used my phone for the first couple minutes.
Okay, no problem. Okay, thank you for coming.